Hello everybody, welcome back to Planet X News. It is January 28th, 2018. Very early in the morning here on Sunday. And ladies and gentlemen, if you just give me a few minutes, we're going to let everybody jump into this live stream. I have some new information that is coming in from a gentleman that I've been in contact with since about September of 2016. And he works at the seismology office in Mexico. And we kind of became friends back in 2016 because he was watching some of my reports pertaining to Planet X, the effects on the Earth, and the effects of the earthquakes. Actually, you know, the frequency of these earthquakes and the frequency of the magnitude of these earthquakes. And he had contacted me by email, and you know, he did ask me to, you know, if I would politely you know, keep his information to myself as far as you know, his identity. And also, folks, you know, real quick, my voice sounds a little raspy this morning. Our weather here in the Pittsburgh area has been going up and down and up and down. Last couple of days, it's been in the high 50s, mid 50s, and here we are, 6 a.m. in the morning on Sunday, and I think the temperature is around 42, but my allergies are just, they're going crazy. They don't know which way they want to go. So it does affect my voice a little bit. But Miguel has sent me some information. I was actually waiting on this information yesterday. I put a post up on the Planet X News Facebook page pertaining to the information that was coming in. And it's quite eye-opening. I was waiting all day and all night for him to get this information over to me. And this is based on what these gentlemen are looking at the seismology office in Mexico. And listen, folks, you know, just because they're in Mexico doesn't mean they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to seismic activity, because the whole entire western coast of Mexico is just riveted with earthquakes on a daily basis. Now, this is nothing completely new as far as seismic activity along the western coast of Mexico. However, the frequency of the earthquakes and the magnitude of these earthquakes, they're becoming very, very eye-opening to this seismology office over the period of the last 2 years. Whenever we had the magnitude 7.9, and that was downgraded by the USGS, naturally, I reached out to Miguel and I asked him for a little bit of help and if he had any information on what they were detecting or any information that he had on what was happening up there in the Gulf of Alaska. And that is the main topic of this live stream. I want to know what is happening up there in that body of water. Because as all of you have seen over the course of the last week, hour by hour, the earthquakes in the Gulf of Mexico, or excuse me, the Gulf of Alaska, they have not stopped. They have not stopped. I mean, it's very, very alarming what is happening there. And with a magnitude 7.9 earthquake occurring underwater on the ocean bottom, you would expect a tsunami. Now, there were tsunami warnings that went out. They were quickly dissolved. And it makes you wonder, how do they know so fast to lift these tsunami warnings? Now, yes, I understand that they have the tsunami buoys out there and, they get the information from them and so on and so forth. But what exactly happened on the ocean floor? That is my question. So that was the question that had arose between the email conversation back and forth between me and Miguel. And he said, look, give me a couple of days, let me find out. He has told me before that the USGS does not work with them as far as sharing information. It just doesn't happen. We're dealing with two different countries, and we all know by now that politically, Mexico doesn't like the United States doesn't like Mexico. Big problems politically between the two countries. So they're definitely not going to be sharing information. But the people in Mexico, the vast majority of these people have been awakening themselves on what is happening. There are many, many Facebook groups and some YouTube channels that are publicizing the same information that I am on what is happening out there near our sun. What are these objects? And Dr. Albers has done a fantastic job possibly identifying what these objects are. But getting into this information about the Gulf of Alaska, folks, what Miguel sent me and where he directed me, it's very alarming for the entire western coast of Canada and the United States. And here's the thing, folks. The information that Miguel has come up with is not pointing towards earthquakes in that region of the Gulf of Alaska. It is pointing to undersea or underwater volcanoes. These underwater volcanoes have been there, as far as what he's told me, approximately 25 million years. And there's a whole string of them right there in that area. So as our conversation went back and forth, he said to me, okay, a magnitude 7.9, possibly even higher than that because the USGS downgraded it to keep it out of the top 5. The top 5 list of big earthquakes in that region. It's all about statistics, non-disclosure, and deception. So the more and more Miguel started digging into what was happening there, he said to me, now let's take into consideration what has just happened. A magnitude 8.3 to 7.9 has occurred on the ocean bottom, not too far from the shoreline. So you would think, based on that type of earthquake, whether it was a slip or an uplift, one way or another, that type of energy release should have caused a bigger tsunami than just 1 to 3 feet. So that clued them into looking into the volcanic activity, the ancient volcanic activity in the Gulf of Alaska. Now, he's not allowed to send me any type of information from their seismic office. The man has worked there for 16 years, and I fully understand that I don't want to jeopardize his job, his profession. But he's been very, very honest with me in our relationship with information. And I found that everything that he has told me over the course of almost 2 years now has been dead on. Very, very accurate. So this is one of the pictures, one of the graphs that he emailed to me. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see this. Now this Gulf of Alaska area, this is where we're referring to right up here. And this is a very, very large magma plume, magma chamber that is within the Earth. Whenever we have these very deep earthquakes, specifically over in the area of the Fiji Islands, and just recently, folks, we had an earthquake. I believe it was 654 kilometers deep, which is pretty close to 400 miles deep through the Earth's crust and into the upper mantle. You know, folks, that type of energy, it makes its way all the way across the Pacific Ocean. And those impacts, they start to occur all along the western coast of Mexico, Central America, and South America. Some of that energy does make its way into the Southern California region. All of a sudden, over the course of the last week, earthquake activity along the San Andreas Fault in the state of California has picked up. Nothing major, but there's also been some increases in seismic activity in Southern California between Los Angeles and San Diego. Last year, the USGS published an article pertaining to a new fault line that they found under the city of Ventura, California. This new fault line, apparently they were kind of worried about it, whatever. But they said that the next big quake in the region of Southern California would possibly occur in this Ventura, California area. And it would be somewhere between, I think it was a 7.8 and an 8.2 on land. So that would be very, very devastating for this area. If any of you, know the scape of land in Ventura, California and Los Angeles, folks, we all know it's a very, very heavily populated area. A magnitude 8.0, well, not going to sit here and sugarcoat shit and call it candy. That would be a devastating earthquake for a heavily populated area like Los Angeles or San Diego or Ventura, California. We see so much deception from these government agencies not telling us the truth and not giving us all of the facts. Well, let's just face it. Government agencies, they work for us, the people. Our taxes pay their salaries. Our taxes produce their budgets. And we all know, if a lot of you listen to Dutch Sense and Ben over at Suspicious Observers, also BP Earthwatch, and a couple of other really good informational YouTube channels, we all know that they get trolled to a living hell just like I do. It's a shame that Dutch has to go through what he has to go through to show everybody this information. And he literally has people from the USGS that troll his YouTube channel, mainly because he speaks the truth I think he's the best in the world at earthquake forecasting. They're probably jealous. But I think it's pretty ridiculous that we have a very serious situation brewing in the Gulf of Alaska that can jeopardize the lives and the existence of millions of people. You know, I mean, I start to think to myself, what in the hell is wrong with these people that work in these government offices? Are they brain dead? Do they have any passion? Do they have any care for the people that they are supposed to be protecting? Protecting by giving out the information, the correct information. I don't know about you guys, but to me, it is gut-wrenching, it is sickening, and it is very disturbing. So, as I was going through the information that Miguel sent over, he was pointing me in these directions. So, this is a massive magma plume that is in the Pacific Ocean. And if any of you want a photograph of this, I'll go ahead and post it on the Planet X News Facebook page. You guys are more than welcome to download it and share it with everybody. So we're going to go ahead and let me just jump out of here real quick. We're going to start looking at some information here. This is the live earthquake map. Now, already in a short amount of time, 75 minutes ago, a magnitude 5.1 just occurred here in Argentina. The depth wasn't that deep, just a little over 85 kilometers deep. But you can see these earthquakes have really picked up in the southern part of the Pacific Ocean. Magnitude 4.8, magnitude, what was that, 4.1. Very shallow. These earthquakes that usually occur in this area, they're much deeper, 1 to 200 kilometers deep. This area over here in Tonga, magnitude 4.6, 5 hours ago. Now, anything over 150 kilometers deep, it's something that you want to watch. This one was 182 kilometers deep. But this region, right here, for the last 2 years, it has been producing the deepest earthquakes on this planet. There is no doubt about it. All of these deep earthquakes, 200, 300, 400 miles deep, have been coming from this area right here. The magnitude of the earthquakes hasn't been that substantial. However, they're getting up there to the point where these last few earthquakes that have been over 600 kilometers deep is very alarming. Now, you know, considering that there are faults that run all along through this region, but when you generate a magnitude 6, 6.5 earthquake that is 300 to 400 kilometers deep into the Earth's upper mantle, that energy is going to push this way. And if we go back to the photograph of the magma plume, well, where do you see this magma plume? You see it right here. So that is probably the reason why all of that energy makes its way towards South America, Central America, Mexico, and generates itself up towards Southern California. It's very alarming, folks. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. And, you know, they have removed some of the earthquakes here in this region in the Gulf of Alaska, right off of Kodiak Island. They removed a lot of them because they will just clutter up clutter up the view. But I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick. This is the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Once again, very, very alarming information that I'm seeing here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up. Open it up on the wide screen here. And you're looking at all of these earthquakes. We'll zoom in a little bit into the Seattle, Washington, Tacoma, Washington area. All of these little dots. These are all little earthquakes. And yes, there are volcanoes that are scattered amongst these earthquakes. Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier. Pretty volatile zone right here. Right off the coast of California, magnitude 5.0. This was on the 25th. And they've had a few earthquakes out here, as you can see. Sometimes this information that you see on the Pacific Northwest website, sometimes this doesn't show up on the USGS. You know? It's kind of odd because supposedly, the guy who runs this network works for the USGS. I believe he is the main culprit who trolls Dutch Sense. But let's get into what Miguel has pointed me to. This is the last 7 days of earthquakes in this region. I'm going to go ahead and blow this up. And this was the 7.9 right here. We already know that this earthquake was much higher than the 7.9 that the USGS downgraded it. The reason why they downgraded it, once again, folks, they wanted to keep it out of the top 5 of the largest earthquakes in this region. Coming in at a magnitude 8.2 or 8.3 would have put it in the top 5. So what do? They downgraded it. Dr. Albers took every single magnitude calculation that was listed from all of the sources, all of the devices underwater in this region. She came out with an average of 8.1. Now, she did a video on it. We're going to have her on later on a YouTube live stream. She's going to explain more of that. But what they did is within all of the data before they went and got their average, you see them slipping in these very low averages, like 3.5, 3.6, 3.2. If you add those types of numbers into your equation to get that average, naturally, it's going to lower your average. So that's how they skew the numbers on these earthquakes. That's how they quickly downgrade them. So the information that Miguel was tipping me off to was a structure, an underwater structure called the Kodiak Sea Mount. I'm just going to pan back here for just a moment. I want you to take a look at what is occurring in this region over the course of the last 7 days. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of earthquakes. These are not just little tremors. These are all earthquakes. Well, you can see this is one of the latest ones right here, magnitude 5.1. And we can go and we can, take a look at each and every one of these, but there's just too many to cover. So what Miguel was pointing me towards, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here just a little bit. He was pointing me to this structure right here called the Kodiak Sea Mount. Doesn't look like anything when you look at it on the USGS map, does it? Doesn't look like anything at all. As we back off a little bit, you're going to see other structures here. If you just follow my cursor, you're going to see these structures all through here. All of these structures. Ladies and gentlemen, these are very, very old volcanoes. And as you zoom in, the USGS, their coverage of this, their computer animation's not that good. But you're going to see a trench all the way through this area. And we're going to look at it on Google Earth to give you a better view of it. So what Miguel was pointing out to me is that there is a very, very high possibility that the 7.9 earthquake that occurred wasn't really an earthquake, but a volcano blasting its lid off. Because if you think about it, like he explained to me, a magnitude 8 earthquake would have generated a lot of power, a lot of energy. What do we really know about all of the Earth's underwater volcanoes? There is said to be over 1 million of them. Now, there are some underwater volcanoes that are monitored. They are monitored actually with undersea cameras and seismic devices. But what information do we have about this zone, this area right here? All of these earthquakes are very shallow, a few kilometers deep. It really starts to make you wonder, once again, why they're not telling us the truth about what's happening here. I'm going to go ahead and jump out of the USGS screen, and I'm just going to read you real quick this Kodiak Sea Mount. And this is just coming from Wikipedia, and Miguel just, he said, he sent me a link to this and said, just go ahead and check this out for yourself. This is possibly what is occurring there. And it states that the Kodiak Sea Mount is the oldest seamount in the Kodiak Sea Mount chain. I believe a chain of volcanoes, with an estimated age of 24 million years. It lies at the northernmost end of the chain, and its flat-topped summit is strewn with fault lines. Like the rest of the Kodiak Sea Mounts, this was formed by the Bowie hotspot. Now, here's a map over here. I do have a screenshot of this. I'll go ahead and pull that up so I can enlarge it. Actually, we can make it a little bit bigger here. It will kind of lose a little bit of its resolution. But this is the area, if you just watch my cursor, this is the area right there where all of this seismic activity is coming from. Right there. These are other volcanoes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, God knows how many of them there are. And these are fault lines all through here, running all the way down into Cascadia and the Juan de Fuca fault. So Miguel's caution was, if this continues in this region, and if this is truly a major volcanic eruption underwater in this area, this could actually start a chain reaction that could make its way all the way through this fault, all the way to the Cascadian subduction zone into the Juan de Fuca, and all the way into the San Andreas. It wouldn't happen like a 1, 2, 3, but it would happen in stages as the pressure builds, as the ocean bottom becomes more and more unstable. We already know that these faults are very unstable. To me, it's a very horrible thing that, the USGS just doesn't come out and say, hey, listen, this is what's happening. One thing that I found to be very startling in Miguel's email is that he had received reports that there are NOAA ships and the United States Coast Guard out here in this region. And they have placed an underwater submersible, one of them little submarines that they're able to control. It's able to go down at very, very deep depths. It has cameras on it, it has all kinds of equipment on it. And that is one of the ways that they monitor or look at underwater volcanoes. So here we are at Google Earth. And again, this is the region that we're looking at. This is where all of the activity is right now. So let's zoom in. Let's take a look. So as we zoom in, we see this 24 million year old volcano. We see these other older volcanoes, 12, 15, 18 million years old, as they say. It kind of makes me wonder when you look at the geology of this, or the geographic area. It kind of looks like molten rock. And we know this area is just scattered with volcanoes. So, if we move further closer, we see this massive trench right here. It's another area that Miguel was pointing me to. If you follow that trench, where does it lead? Right over to the western coast of Canada. What's over here? The Cascadian subduction zone begins. The Juan de Fuca. All of these faults are right here. State of Washington, State of Oregon, Northern California. Very serious situation. So, if we pan out just a little bit, where my arrow is right where that ancient underwater volcano is. If you look at the distance, it's not that far. So if this keeps occurring hour by hour, earthquake after earthquake after earthquake after earthquake in this area, there's a high possibility, a very high possibility, that something occurs somewhere in this region, right here. We already know that this is a very volatile area. But are these really earthquakes? The swarm of earthquakes over the last 7 days, since the 7.9, has been off the charts. Every hour, there's another report of seismic activity. And the reporting stations, you know, these earthquakes that they're reporting, they're not like tiny little tremors. They're magnitude 3s, 4s, 5s. They just keep on going. So it really makes you wonder, folks, what is going on in the Gulf of Alaska? This is the region right there. This is where, let me pan back here and get this kind of straightened out a little bit. Right there. All of these earthquakes are surrounding that old volcano. Not any of these, which actually seem to be larger in size and supposedly younger in age. They claim this one is about 24 million years old. I don't know where they come up with those numbers, but that is what is said to be. I mean, it looks like a volcano to me. It looks like molten rock at one point, and so does all of this. It just looks like molten rock. And that's probably what formed this big ridge. I'm not a geologist. I'm not a volcanologist. But I'm also not stupid. So what would be causing 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 earthquakes in this small region of the Gulf of Alaska? USGS claims they're earthquakes. Another seismology office from another country is claiming that there's more to be said. That the possibilities of underwater volcanoes in full eruption mode may be the culprit. Now, never have I heard about the NOAA ships, vessels, heading out to a region in the ocean after an earthquake. I've watched a few documentaries on how they survey these underwater volcanoes. What Miguel said is true. They do use these underwater submersibles. They have pretty sophisticated cameras and lights, and they can go to very, very deep depths. They're also used to put seismic devices near these volcanoes to retrieve data. Me personally, I think we have a pretty big concern here. But again, you know, we don't have a government agency coming out and saying this is the possible issue. All we hear is nothing. Crickets. Downgrading the earthquakes. To me, it is very, very suspicious that a magnitude 8 earthquake hits right here in this area and no tsunami. Look at the distance to Old Harbor, Kodiak, all these little areas right here. Nothing. Nothing. Now, would you feel a very big seismic movement with a volcano underwater? That's a question. If this area and that fault slipped, I think we would have had some pretty heavy ground movement. If there was an uplift of an earthquake, an uplift, then we would have definitely experienced a decent-sized tsunami. 30, 40, 50 feet, who knows? But all I know is this earthquake of a magnitude 7.9 was basically uneventful. Other than them sounding the warning for, get out of town, a tsunami's coming, they were very, very quick to cancel all of it. I think they canceled the tsunami warning because they knew that it was not an earthquake, that it was possibly a volcanic eruption in this area of a volcano that is said to be dated back 24 million years. Very interesting. So if any of you guys want to look into this, this is called the Kodiak Sea Mount. Excuse me. I'll post some information on it on the Planet X News Facebook page. Start digging around. See what we can find. From what Miguel told me, there is a big interest right now in this area. It would have to be a big interest for them to send out the NOAA ships, their big vessels. I wouldn't doubt at this point in time they already have these these underwater submersibles checking out this area, but we're not hearing anything about it. Nothing. Taxpayers, they're paying for it, but you don't hear nothing about it. So if you guys want to go to Google Earth and check it out, you can type in Kodiak Sea Mount. Should take you right to it. And there is a string of old volcanoes right there. Probably all of these. But it was very, very interesting information that that Miguel forwarded over to me. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Oops. There we go. So let me get out of this full screen here. But going back to this area, I mean, just look at it. 11 hours ago, 5.1, 4.3. The more we zoom into Alaska, I mean, just look at it. This is always a pretty active area. But we really don't see what we normally see. This is very, very unusual. And where is it located? If we pull up the satellite look, well, this won't show it to us. Their imagery isn't very good here. 4.6, 3.9, 4.0, 3.9, 3.5, 4, 3.8, 3.9. And again, folks, a lot of these have been, the older earthquake signatures, they've been removed. If we go to the USGS, they're all there for the last 7 days. There is the Kodiak Sea Mount volcano right there. Here is all the activity. Where's that big magma plume? Right underneath there. It's interesting. I'm going to pull up some other pictures that he sent me over. Just give me 1 second. Here's a better picture of what we were referring to as far as the layout of this Gulf of Alaska. There's the old volcano that we're talking about right there, 24 million years old. And all of this region right here, this is where all these earthquakes are supposedly happening. This was a picture chart graph that he sent me over. And this is basically showing what occurs with these types of underwater volcanoes. And again, it has been stated that we have over 1 million underwater volcanoes. The majority of them we can't monitor. Are they responsible for heating up our oceans? High possibility. Very high possibility. I checked on some of the water temperatures in this surrounding area. They're all way above normal. Do earthquakes cause water temperatures to go up? Or would it be feasible for an underwater volcano to cause water temperatures to go up? Huh. And as you can see in the graph here, seawater enters cracks. As these volcanic explosions occur underwater, the surrounding area is cracking. Seawater is entering. Therefore, again, I'm not a volcanologist, but if you have very, very high temperatures, 1,000 degrees Celsius, and seawater is pouring into the magma, well, you're going to create steam. High pressure steam. Is that what is causing all of these earthquakes? If they even are earthquakes. That's the question. Here's another picture he sent me over. This gives you kind of a little bit of the layout of the land. Here's the volcano that we're looking at here. And all of this region here, where I'm circling, this is where all the activity is. Right here. So I will post all of this information and these pics for you guys to check out. You're more than welcome to share them. This was one more picture that he sent over to try to help explain. Oh, I can't zoom in on this. Why? Huh. Zoom feature's no good on this. I'll post all these pics on the Facebook page. But this shows you how deep the mantle, the outer core, the inner core, the continental plate. This gives you a good overview of what's underneath us. Very, very good information he sent me over. Something else I wanted to show you guys. Just a little while ago, one of our subscribers and followers down in Australia, Mr. Greg Roberts, sent in a photograph, and we were checking it out. And this is supposed to be the sun, right up here. So here's our sun. Here's our sun up here. We have this huge light source down below it. Yeah, possible reflection through the clouds. But something that I noticed in Greg's photograph was this, I don't even know how to explain it. This pixelated area. It almost looks like a grid of some kind. Very strange. Very, very strange. This was the full photograph that he sent me. So not only did this little grid pattern appear underneath the sun in this picture, it also appeared up here. What the hell is that? Oops, wrong way. I changed the coloring and I put it through one filter. And that's supposed to be the sun. Right there. With this dark black ring around it. And this grid surrounding the light. I mean, could it be an effect caused by the camera? It's possible. But I find it very odd. Very odd. And I zoomed this in, so it may be a little pixelated, but since when does the sun have this perfect black ring around it? I know it's pretty heavily pixelated, but pretty strange. Very strange. But I wanted to share that photo with you that Greg sent in. And Greg, if you're listening, buddy, thank you very much for sending that in. Pretty awesome picture. But this is what we have brewing here, ladies and gentlemen, in the Gulf of Alaska. It's a very alarming situation. I think it's something that we have to stay on top of. Have to continue to dig for information. There's no doubt about that. And as you can see, the whole area up here, very active. And as you can see here, all along the San Andreas Fault, all the way down into Baja California. These are all recent earthquakes. They're small, but they keep adding up. I think just yesterday or the day before there was a small 2.5 or 2.8 earthquake in Ohio. I think we can probably see it on the USGS map. Get rid of this Google Earth. Right here. Magnitude 2.5. Beverly, Ohio. That was on the 26th. And just like Dutch says, whenever he's talking about how that pressure makes its way, and he always shows those arrows pinpointed right through my neck of the woods here in Pittsburgh. right on the inside, the western edge of the Appalachian Mountains. And what do we have? Earthquake up here, earthquake up here. These are very small, but they're still happening. And once again, I've pointed this out, this feature that I've been seeing for quite some time. I'm just going to go ahead and blow this up. I'm going to move to a different screen so we can see it a little better. That's not what I want. If you take a look once again, I've pointed this out many times before. Each and every single week, there's not a week that goes by for the last 2 years that we do not see this arch of earthquakes that leads all the way down into LA and San Diego. It normally starts up here. It makes its way all the way. What lies right in between? Yellowstone. A little bit of activity brewing up here. It's hard to say what earthquakes they are listing and what they're not. Soda Springs, down here in Idaho, once again, starting to get very, very active with earthquakes. We could zoom in. So 4.3. 3.3. Another 3.3. Many, many moons ago, folks, there was a devastating earthquake in this area. I forget what year it was in, but it was pretty devastating. And fortunately, at the time that large earthquake occurred in Soda Springs, Idaho, it wasn't a very heavily populated area. It was pretty devastating. I think the mountain range, I forget, it rose, I don't know if it was 13 feet, 13 meters, one of the mountain ranges in this area after that earthquake. It just simply rose from the energy and the power of the earthquake. If any of you want to check it out, look up Soda Springs earthquake. The information will come straight up. Give you all of the details on what occurred in this region back in the day. Can it happen again? You bet your ass it can. And now there are more people living in this region. There are more people living everywhere around here. And the lay of the land, I'll just show you what I see from the satellite view. If you just take a look at how desolate this area is, basically just like a desert, the ground scorched. You really can't do anything with it. You could see by all the brown color, the desert. Well, why isn't the rest of the United States like that? Only this area. Why? Because that was probably one of the effects of the last time Yellowstone blew its lid and just literally melted and devastated this whole region. All of it. And it seems to be, again, I've been watching this for the last 2 years. Every single week, this small arch from up here at the Canadian-U.S. border all the way down, it arches over right into Southern California. You can watch it yourself, folks. Just pull up the earthquake data on the USGS for the last 7 days. Click over on your little gear. Go up here. Last 7 days, all magnitudes. Excuse me. Starting to lose my voice again. But I wanted to share that information with you folks because I think it's pretty vital on what's happening up here. this could end up being pretty catastrophic. We have all of these faults that we worry about all the time. You know, Dutch has been talking about this area of the Cascadian fault and the Juan de Fuca fault that runs down into the northern tier of California. That would be devastating, folks. It would be devastating for the people here in Seattle, Vancouver, Washington, Oregon, Northern California. We're starting to see even more seismic activity in Nevada. Here's one right here. Magnitude 2.4. 11 hours ago. I think the Earth is just really... Oh, there's a new earthquake right here that just updated. Small one. 10 minutes ago. But it seems as the Earth moves into nighttime on this side of the planet, things seem to kind of calm down. We don't see a lot of activity occurring. But as the Earth rotates towards the sun, it seems like the earthquake activity picks up. And it picks up all day, from the early morning to the evening. Just something I'm noticing. Is our sun playing a role? Probably. Is anybody going to admit it? Probably not. We all know they don't want us to have the exact information. Now, one last thing I'm going to share with all of you, and then I'll let you go so you can enjoy your Sunday. We're going to jump off of the earthquake information, and we're going to move over towards the weather. And one more thing that Miguel tipped me off to, something that I never knew anything about. I never even thought that it would be possible. I'm going to bring up the diagram for high pressures and low pressure systems. And something that he mentioned to me that may be another leading factor is these massive low pressure systems do have the ability to influence seismic activity. And especially when you have a low system here, as you can see, it's marked by the letter L, gives you the reading also. But he mentioned to me whenever you have a low system and another low system, and these are very large. These low systems, as large as they are, they do have the ability to influence seismic activity, especially in a volatile zone, such as the Gulf of Alaska. This is today, right now. You could see another low pressure here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this out for a couple of days on the calendar here, and I want you to watch this low pressure. It's huge. It's massive. Let's check it out. Where's it going? It's not going anywhere. Now, if I stop it right there, that's already into Tuesday at 9 a.m. So you could see that low pressure. Let's move back. We'll play it again. That low pressure has been sitting there for days. Right in the area where all of the earthquake activity is. Is it playing a role in the seismic activity in this region? It's highly possible. But he did clue me in on that fact, that something to watch for when you're trying to, for instance, maybe forecast seismic activity. Watching these massive low pressure systems over an area that does have seismic activity. Watch for it. So this is what's been occurring, and you can see it. It's pretty big. And you can see all of these other low pressure systems. And this one, it just stays there. And now watch this. Look at the size of this. It's two low pressure systems. Two, one here, basically forming together. And it's almost possibly 1/3 of the size of the entire Pacific region. That's a pretty damn big low pressure system. It's huge. And that is Saturday, February 3rd, 8 a.m. Look at the size of this. We'll let it go ahead and run its course. So it really doesn't look like there is any relief in sight for this region of the Gulf of Alaska. It seems that one low pressure moves out, 2 or 3 move in. We just watched 2 low pressures form to create one massive one. You just go back. Here's your 2 lows, one here, one here. If we move it forward, you'll see them, and they just blend in. One separates, and it just wants to keep itself right over that region. So there may be some multiplying factors of what's happening up here in the Gulf of Alaska. I think it's something that we are going to keep our eye on for a very long time. And once again, folks, as he has said, there is a very, very, very high possibility of probably a hell of a lot more activity in this region. Let's hope and pray that nothing major happens that disturbs this Cascadian fault line and this Juan de Fuca leading into the west coast of the United States, because that would be devastating. Very, very strange weather once again, too, that's going to be moving across the United States. We're going to have some cold weather dipping in, some warm weather, cold weather, warm weather, cold weather. It's going to keep fluctuating, folks. As I had mentioned about 3 weeks ago, whenever we had this huge polar vortex in the United States, temperatures, way, way in the negative zone across 2/3 of the United States. I had mentioned that before too long, the folks over in Europe, they were all dodging bullets, man. They were all dodging all of this weather. But now, 3 weeks later, as I mentioned, that's not going to happen anymore. And for the last couple of days, different areas of Europe are underwater. Paris, big problems in the UK, Scotland, Spain, different areas of France, the Netherlands, Germany. Issues all over Europe now. And it was just a matter of time before things started to shift a little bit. And again, in a few weeks, all of this mess that you see here is going to shift to this region. And then you're going to see devastation throughout the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and then it's going to shift again. And it's going to shift over into Indonesia and Asia. And then it's going to be right back here. What do we reference that to? Our Earth wobble that some people just plainly dispute is not happening. But yet they can't tell us why the jet stream is so erratic. Why all of the crazy weather. The temperatures up and down and up and down. There'll be some moderate temperatures coming through parts of the United States. I'll let this run out from today through February 6th. You can see the huge fluctuation of Arctic air, but then again, big warm-ups. You can see it for yourself, folks. This is going to cause, more rivers to flood, streams, creeks, things of that nature. It's going to be a constant, ongoing process. The weather upcoming will be our enemy. There is no doubt about that. Also, as I've mentioned before, keeping a close eye on your weather, every couple of hours, especially if you travel, if you're traveling for work or just your day-to-day, you want to try to keep an eye on what is happening, because as you can see, things are changing so fast, so drastically. 1 minute it can be, let's just take a look here. 1 minute it could be 43 degrees where I'm at in the Pittsburgh area right now. But then watch what happens in a short amount of time. I mean, did you see that fluctuation? 25 degrees, 45 degrees. I mean, the fluctuations are, I'll just sum it up in one word. They're insane. And for the folks over in the UK, Scotland, all of Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe in a deep freeze. Western Europe, they're relatively warm. Let's get a little temperature reading. 38 degrees. Let's move it back to actual time. Yeah, 53 degrees in London at the end of January. Pretty abnormal, don't you think? Yeah. Nothing to do with global warming, but everything to do with our Earth wobble, a possible change in our Earth's tilt. Folks, that change in our Earth's tilt, it doesn't have to be an extreme number. 1, 2, 3 degrees. And I'm not talking about the temperature. I'm talking about the tilt of the Earth from 23.5 degrees to 25, 26, 27 degrees. If our planet tilted that way, don't you think that it would upset the jet streams in the northern and southern hemisphere? Of course it would. But yet we have idiots out there that just say it's not happening. We don't even know who these people are, but I'll tell you who they are. They're government trolling operations. That's who they are. They won't show you their face. They won't tell you who they are. But yet, they'll come out there and they'll dispute everything that you say. They will make up anything to change your mind. But I don't think any of us are that stupid to believe anything that these fools have to say. Because you know why? Each and every one of us, we're living it. We're seeing it. And we're breathing in the chemtrails on a daily basis. They obliterate my skies every day. Every day. It's disgusting. And then you have these other idiots out there that say, chemtrails don't exist. Oh, alrighty then. So big jumbo jets just go through our skies on a daily basis, creating checkerboard patterns. And then hours later, the blue sky disappears, and you have this hazy film in the sky. Oh, okay. Those are just contrails. You people are crazy. No. We got it right, folks. We know what's up. We know what the deal is. We're not going to be fooled. But the poison in the sky, it is sickening. It is disturbing. It is disgusting. And very harmful. Very harmful to human beings, plants, animals, our ecosystem. Very disturbing. But anyways, folks, listen. Share this live stream on your Facebook pages. We'll be back later on with Dr. Albers. She's written a couple of reports on what she's been coming up with as far as earthquake activity. Very interesting information. I know you'll want to hear it. We'll be holding that live stream on our YouTube channel, the Planet X News YouTube channel. So make sure that you are subscribed, because once again, YouTube is jerking around with the subscribers on the YouTube channel. Once again, they're deleting hundreds and hundreds of people that you literally have to go back and check. Make sure that you're subscribed. So everything that we do on YouTube, it is uploaded and put onto the Planet X News Facebook page. So just make sure your notifications are up to date and you're paying very close attention, because they don't want you to hear me speak. They don't want you to hear Dr. Albers speak either. We need to continue expanding our network worldwide. As long as we have access to the internet and to social media, we must continue. As I've stated before, and I'll say it again, knowledge is power. The more knowledge we have, the better off we're going to be. That's the bottom line. But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you being with me here this very early Sunday morning. Be safe out there. Pay very close attention to what's happening around you. I know each and every one of you want to go home to your family every single day. Be a part of the solution. Don't become a statistic. This is Scott from Planet X News. Thank you for watching.